Hey there, everybody. Happy Thursday. Wanted to take a moment to do this quick video. I've been putting it off for a couple of days. It's just something that has been heavy on my heart, but wanted to share just some thoughts. I know you guys hear me oftentimes talk about the importance of relationships and how emotional maturity, I won't even say intelligence, because I think that's the problem. A lot of the time we have a ton of intelligence regarding a matter, but we don't implement the intelligence in which we have. But emotional maturity and the importance of it as you begin to build relationships, not only emotional maturity, but communication and the role that it plays. Here over the last year, I've spent a great deal of time just really being mindful of my relationships, not only how the relationships serve me and the other person that I'm in relationship with, but also how I show up in relationships. And I'm learning a couple of things. One, the real relationships where I've developed intimacy, I'm able to be upfront. I'm able to be honest. But we didn't get to that point just by happenstance. We got to that point because I or myself or the other individual had the courage to stand up and say, this is not what I want. This is what I want. This is what I don't want, to set boundaries and expectations, right? Both ways. In addition to that, because they knew who I was and I knew who they were, we knew who each other were because we were vulnerable in that relationship. I realize now why I don't have strong relationships with certain people, because they aren't willing to be vulnerable with me the way I'm willing to be with them. One of the things that's very important to me in this season of my life, or as I begin this new chapter of my life, is authentic relationships. And I'm not even just talking about myself being authentic, but being in relationship with others who are in that space of maturity and authenticity. Because at the end of the day, it's a lot of work when you are pouring out the depths of yourself to a person and they aren't mature enough to receive it. They aren't capable to receive it. So having the maturity, the emotional maturity or intelligence to be aware of the fact that, Keisha, guess what? This person is not someone that is mature enough or capable of being in a relationship with you. And that's okay. It's an okay thing. But one of the biggest things for me, even the concept of saying no, one of the things that I realized earlier this year about myself is why I am a upfront, very direct person. I wasn't really good at that point at saying no to people, right? When I didn't want to do things, I was doing them in spite of just not really wanting to. So one of the things that I realized, the reason why I don't have the relationship with that person and the ability to say no to that person is because at the end of the day, we don't have that type of relationship where there's vulnerability there, right? So I can say no to them, but then I'm afraid that because of their lack of maturity, because I recognize that I can't say no to them, because then they're going to feel rejection, they're going to feel a certain kind of way, and then we don't have the type of relationship to where I can talk to them about the reasons why I said no, because their heightened sense of, emotional, their heightened sense of being too emotional about a subject or an issue or whatever it may be, right? One of the things that I am realizing about myself, hey there, Brenda, I hope that all is well. I'm actually on the freeway, so I'm trying not to read comments and all of that. So if you guys will bear with me, I wanted to share this with you because my relationship with my daughter has, over the last 2 or 3 years, has really grown by leaps and bounds. And today I realized that I had to do this video because my relationship with her, but I also have a friendship that I've really developed that I just looked at over this past weekend, and I'm like, oh my God, why is this relationship different from all my other air quote friendships, right? I'm finally in relationship with people where I give and they give back as much as I give, right? The investment that I pour in, I'm seeing a return on it, and I don't have to ask for it. I don't have to sit around and twiddle my thumbs while I wait for it. Over my history, I've been in relationship because of who I am and because I operate in an authentic, vulnerable place. I give you everything that I have, expecting nothing in return. But what I kept finding out was that because I didn't require anything and you weren't emotionally mature or intelligent enough to give it back because it's what you were supposed to do in relationship, I kept finding myself by default feeling salty. Can I just be real about it? I kept finding myself feeling a certain kind of way about it. It didn't mean that I didn't show up. I continuously showed up, but I showed up out of obligation. I showed up because, at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. So I found myself in relationships that at the end of the day, we weren't good for each other, point blank, period, because while I may have been willing to be vulnerable and I may have been willing to talk about the hard stuff and say the hard stuff, they weren't willing to put the same things on the table so that we could actually come into a greater level and depth of intimacy. You know, today we have, and I look at my relationship with my sister. I've been spending a lot of time with one of my youngest sisters here lately. And we actually, for the first time, sat and cried together. And I sat there and I thought, God, we've never had this level of intimacy with each other, but it's a function of she felt safe with me, I felt safe with her, and we had the courage to talk about what really was. We weren't willing to be silent about what was anymore, right? We had the courage to be vulnerable. We had the courage to reveal the depths of our souls to each other, right? And then to also sit in a spiritual connection that we share and say, okay, how do we move out of this place? How do we get better? How do we grow together? And then also the courage to talk about the misunderstandings. There were some misunderstandings. There were some things about who I am that offended who she was, right? But having the conversations of, hey, I know you took it this way, but this was the intention of my heart. But I had to be willing to sit in that vulnerable space with her for a moment so that we could have that. You know, I had to be willing to hear her silence when she wasn't speaking. I had to have the depth of perception to be able to see her sadness, her weakness when she wasn't able to speak about it, right? But this is the space that many of us aren't willing to go into because of these false ideals that we've created, these facades that we've lifted up. And so now as a people, we're struggling in life when we don't have to because we don't have true, authentic, pure relationships. My point in doing this video today is because this year has been a very full year for me, because I've really become mindful of who Keisha is at her core. And I've been willing to challenge those things and those people and circumstances and situations that don't line up with where I'm trying to go and who I am, okay? Because a lot of times we do stuff out of fear of lack. We do stuff out of fear of of not fitting in, out of fear of rejection. We keep doing all of these things out of fear. And the reality is it's just putting us further and further into holes that we struggle to dig ourselves out of. But the saddest thing is that I'm watching so many people laying on the side of the road because we've left them there, unwilling to be vulnerable with them, unwilling to be courageous and talk to them about what is, unwilling to really embrace the situation for what it is, embrace the person and say, you know what, I'm in relationship with you. This is out of order. Let's figure this out together so that we can both grow and get better, so that we can both live in the fullness of life that has been promised to us. I want what's best for you, and I know you want what's best for me, but being in relationship with people that truly want what's best for you. We're doing a whole bunch of foolishness just so we look good, so we sound good, so other people will receive us. You know, I'll even take it as far as, you know, even being in business and doing business with people that I know that I'm not in relationship with, and I can never be I won't say never, that currently when I look at their state of being is not conducive to where I'm trying to go. So now you're in relationship and you're in business deals that are pulling you outside yourself, and you're having to question. And what I'm realizing, and I'm seeing that real time as I'm planning things with other people, and, you know, having people to sit down with me and say, you know what, Keisha, I know who you are, and I know that that's not something you want to do. Let's meet somewhere in between, or hey, let's just not do it, right? Having people who understand your values, who understand the depths of who you are, who understand the parts of you that will not compromise, and being in relationship and doing things with people that say, you know what, I see you, I hear you. And you know what, as a result of me valuing my relationship with you, as a result of us developing greater levels of intimacy, I'm going to be vulnerable in this moment, and I'm going to hear what you have to say. And you know what, that makes sense. And if it's not something you agree with, we just not gonna do it. What I'm challenging everybody today, one, let me say this. If you are not living in an authentic space, don't reach out to me. Point blank, period. Because in this space that I'm in, I have have to stay in this vein because it's where I have found my peace. It's where I found fulfillment. It's where I found the greatest levels of success for myself, operating in the most authentic version of who Keisha is, operating within the values that Keisha has set out for herself. I value family above all things, right? So when you start to come upon my family and you start to inhibit my family and you start to really take away from that, then guess what? I can't really mess with you. I value my faith above all things. So when things challenge who I am and my faith, and I know it's not in alignment with that, not to say you can't challenge things. You can challenge whatever the heck you want to challenge, but understand that you have to have the courage and I have to have the courage to stand up for that which I value. And I'm learning that real time.